Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting here from Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., where the Wall Street puppet Barack Obama is in the process of transferring 24 trillion U.S. dollars into the hands of the zombie banks of Wall Street, the various J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, who had a very bad result. They can't even make money under these new hoked-up rules. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Bank of New York Mellon, Citibank, you know the zombie bank catalog by now, and you've got to learn the executives of those banks, too, so you know who your class enemy is. So we're now told, according to Inspector General Neil Barofsky of the Treasury Department, a kind of overseer of the TARP, that it is now a $24 trillion credit line, $80,000 for every American, all for Wall Street, not for the unions, not for the poor, not for minorities, not for the inner cities, not for the farmers, not for biotech, not for Silicon Valley, none of that. Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street. Government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers. So remember, the enemy is Wall Street. The enemy are these financiers, and the necessity, the urgent necessity is if you don't break their power over the Obama regime, this country will be dragged into the abyss. We cannot have a country where let's say the spending priorities are so skewed that California is now sinking into absolute barbarism under the liberal Republican Schwarzenegger with the help of the reactionary Republican faction in the California State Senate and California State Assembly. California is sinking into barbarism. We just heard the ridiculous bill that has gone through the California State Senate, $26 billion in budget gap. And they say, cut education, cut higher education, cut your college grants, cut your state parks, cut health, cut welfare, cut your prison budget. Right, let's let a bunch of criminals out. Let's cut police. Let's cut firemen, and so on and so forth. The overriding necessity for California, institute a Tobin tax, institute a securities transfer tax. Wall Street created this crisis. Wall Street should pay for the crisis, not the people, through cuts in education, higher education, health care, welfare, police, fire, and other vital services. They're gouging into the substance of civilization itself. The fiber of human civilization is being rent and torn wantonly in California under liberal Republican leadership, with Arnie leading the charge, Arnie brandishing a dagger. The hand that held the dagger has stabbed it into the back of the people of California. That's Arnie brandishing his dagger, right? He's thinking of Cap the Knife, Weinberger back in the Nixon years. Arnie the knife, Arnie the dagger, Arnie the stiletto. Well, the only shield against that stiletto is the Tobin tax, the securities transfer tax, 1% to be paid by the broker on all transactions of derivatives, over-the-counter derivatives, exchange-traded derivatives. That means options, futures, and everything else in that category, stocks, bonds, real estate, plus, that is to say, real estate investment trusts and so forth. And, of course, foreign exchange, commodities, and all the rest of it. So the overriding need for this society is an anti-financier program. Right now, the financial crisis is being dealt with on the backs of the middle class, the workers, and everybody else, really. All other interests are being sacrificed to one paramount interest, which is that of finance capital. And the problem with that is You cannot live by finance capital alone. Finance capital has got to be radically cut down to size, and that is the political task of the next couple of years. Now, we're also now in the middle of the crisis of the Obama regime. As I have pointed out in Obama the Postmodern Coup, The Making of a Manchurian Candidate, Jimmy Carter, who is the prototype for Obama, the last time we had a 90% to 95% trilateral commission puppet in the White House, run by bankers, right? In those days it was Volcker. Today it's also Volcker, plus Summers, plus Geithner, plus the rest of them. The peak of Carter's popularity arrived within the month or so after the 100 days. So that was the first 3 to 4 months, and now we're about at the 6-month mark with Obama, and the indications are, of course, that he is beginning to lose traction. Washington Post headline, Monday, July 20th, poll shows Obama slipping on key issues. Healthcare falls below 50%. Healthcare approval for Obama now is approaching 45, maybe 40% after his really catastrophic press conference of this past week. The attempt of the Obama regime is to use multiple strategies of mass brainwashing, scare tactics, lying, dissembling, deception, and so forth, to attempt to stampede the entire Congress into approving a bonanza for bankrupt insurance companies, because that's the issue here. The U.S. insurance industry, the U.S. insurance companies are bankrupt. AIG is what? It's an insurance company. It's bankrupt. They sold $3 trillion of derivatives through their London hedge fund. Similarly, the Hartford, another one of the big Connecticut complex of insurance companies, $3.5 billion from the TARP, and the rest of them, the MetLife, Allstate, State Farm, Prudential, and the rest of them, have all essentially destroyed themselves with derivatives speculation. The ultimate motivation for this Obama policy is, of course, to gouge, to chisel the existing Medicare, Medicaid, and other systems, to convoy more and more guaranteed profits into the hands of the private insurance companies, and thereby give them a backdoor bailout from the fact that they're all bankrupt because of derivatives. Here again we see the ruling principle, the method of the Obama regime, the Mussolini fascist corporate state, meaning that the various liberal, deluded groups that want health care, of course, it's a legitimate demand, and I'm all for it, and we'll talk about that later, but the idea is to dupe these liberal groups, well-meaning but naive though they are, and get them in a tripartite configuration with the Obama regime, the private insurance companies loaded down with bankrupt derivatives and toxic paper, and then to essentially force the liberal advocacy groups to act as battering rams to get that through against all the resistance that we have. So the good news is that this effort seems to be failing. As of this week, Obama is bogged down. He is not yet in full retreat, but the hysterical push to try to stampede the Congress, to extort bills from the House and the Senate before the congressional August recess would seem to have failed, although groups of fanatics seem to be gathering for some kind of a last stand in the House before they go away under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi's got a Soros agent running her office as Speaker of the House. So when Nancy Pelosi speaks, this is the voice of George Soros, meaning the voice of the New York Federal Reserve and of related interests, because that's who Soros is. So it's not yet the beginning of the end, but it may well be now the end of the beginning. We'll be back in a minute.